Well, hello everybody. It's the Menage Art. No, hang on, that was last week. It's the Menagerie. That's right. Yeah. Well, two dogs, a budgie, and me with a video so scintillatingly exciting that I'd advise watching in a well-ventilated space, together with the removal or loosening, at the very least, of any tight-fitting clothing, especially in this hot weather we're enjoying right now. Anyway, there have been a few videos in my feed lately where people talk about the first, X number of albums they bought or owned. And I figured that as I have no original or interesting ideas of my own, I just hop on this. Now, my earliest music listening experiences were as a 6 or 7 year old placing a stack of my sister's 7-inch singles, I'll test your sibilance out, on her Dansette record player. Now, my sister is 14 years older than me. Yes, I was a mistake, I know, and she'd left home for university long before. Now, my favourites at the time were Let's Dance by Chris Montez, House of the Rising Sun by The Animals, Albatross by Fleetwood Mac, as well as a few by Simon and Garfunkel that she'd had. But there were loads others as well. As for albums, though, I found it quite tricky. I mean, it's not easy for a man in his late 30s to think, what do you mean? Okay, I jest, but it is a bit of a task thinking back to the 1970s. So while I come up with 10 records or albums to be more precise, whether they were actually the exact first 10 I owned, and I can't be 100% certain. So what I've done is I've chosen 13. Random, I know, to be on the safe side though, at least. What I am absolutely certain of, though, is the first album I ever owned. Now, I must have been 7 or 8, and it was bought with the meagre pocket money a 7 or 8 year old with strange parents gets. My parents, as well as not being very supportive, they were also pyromaniacs. My father lit a bonfire in the garden every week, and I remember coming home from school one day, going into the front room where the record player and records live, only to find it gone, or all of the records as well, apart from my first album. But they'd all been burnt on one of these bonfires. The Dansette, the singles, no rhyme or reason, just destroyed. Worse was to come, though, when after I'd started to show an interest in playing the piano we had at home, a lovely old upright thing, they burnt that as well one weekend. I think it was child abuse, really, but it was, 1970s, and we just got on with it. Anyway, it didn't affect me long term. I'm fine now. Right, back to that first album, Geoff Love and his orchestra's Big War movie themes. It was in my local village shop amidst the Perry Como, Wombles and Top of the Pops cover albums, and being a huge war film fan, I just had to have it. It's a record I still own and still very much play to this day, and it still does sound really quite good, actually, still. For my next acquisition, we need to fast forward a number of years to around the summer of 1978 and a copy of News of the World by Queen, which a girl in school made for me, complete with her own self-penned cover art. It was the album that really got me into the band, so Caroline Morris, you are to blame. Now, I no longer have the cassette, but I do have 2 copies of the record on vinyl, as well as the deluxe box set, bought for a bargain, sub £50, or around £50, I recall. Next up, it's 2 more cassettes. Now, for Christmas 1978, I had bought for me a simple mono Hitachi cassette player / recorder. My very first own music playing device, which was important, that I could be reasonably certain it would still be there every day when I needed it and not mysteriously used as tinder. Anyway, with the player, my parents bought me 2 tapes. Neil Diamond's 12 Greatest Hits, bought for my mother, I suspect, and Jazz by Queen. They're up the loft in a case somewhere, I'm pretty certain, but in any event, I did buy the vinyl version of Jazz sometime later. As for Mr. Diamond, though, sorry, Neil. Another cassette I bought around that time was The Beatles featuring Tony Sheridan. I can't find it. I think I got this tape whilst accompanying my dad on our weekly food shop to Tesco. More on which later. Onto vinyl now, and only the second ever album I bought was a copy of Queen's Live Killers. Now, I'd nagged my parents to buy a music centre, and I was desperate therefore to play my new record and my Geoff Love one. On those weekly trips to Tesco, I recall seeing the Waltham range of music centres. Anyone in the UK remember them? Though they looked fantastic. They were silver, they had lots of buttons, lights and VU meters, but when my dad eventually came home with a stereo one day, it was in the shape of an awful Ferguson unit, similar to the one on screen now, with a record deck, cassette, and at least a tuner with lovely red lights to indicate what wavelength you were listening to. I loved that stereo, even though I think it played the records at closer to 38 than 33 and a third. Something I learned when listening to records at a friend's house. On our stereo, everything sounded a bit
chipmunkish.
But at least it allowed me a few things. Firstly, I could play my 2 vinyl albums. Also, I could make my own tapes from borrowed records. All
the wrong speed, man. You
most vitally, in fact, really importantly, it was my gateway to the Friday Rock Show at 10 p.m. on BBC Radio 1 in glorious FM. Sir Thomas of Vance, R.I.P. The next record I bought, again on one of those Tesco trips, was Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. I mean, come on, everybody had that, didn't they? I no longer have the vinyl album, but I do now have it on CD somewhere. I expanded my Queen collection next with the seemingly strange decision to buy Queen 2. Now, I say strange, as you'd have thought I'd have gone for the far more popular albums like A Night at the Opera or Sheer Heart Attack, but they would arrive later. I think I was just seduced by the side white and side black, whole thing. And it was available in Tesco yet again. Of course, I still have that original record. It's a bit dog-eared now, but I absolutely love it. I also have a later re-release, bought with my winnings from one of Steve over at A is for Almighty, B is for Brilliant, and C is for... Hang on, what's that say? Oh, Count, the Count, that's it, of the vinyl community. One of his contestants. I later bought the deluxe box set. And there's a video on that box set link somewhere. The next album I bought was Judas Priest's Killing Machine. Now, I'd watched them on Top of the Pops doing Take on the World, and after seeing that, I realised that was my music. It was my David Bowie looking straight at you on TV Starman moment, And, okay, so it was a man, Sir Bob of Halford, dressed in leather and studs instead of an androgynous being in a glittery catsuit, but I discovered my niche. Well, musically at least. So much so that on release, I then bought Unleashed in the East, and I still have both of them. Right, is that 10? I think it might be. But let's do a couple more just to be certain. So we'll add to the list The Wall by Pink Floyd. I definitely remember buying that at the time. And 2 records I bought with money I got for passing some O-levels. These are the end of school exams in the UK that you sit at 16. And they're now called something else, GCSEs, I think, as ordinary is probably a banned word in schools now. Anyway, they were both on the strength of tracks I'd heard on the Friday Rock Show, and they were Duke by Genesis and Gillan's Glory Road, both still in my collection today. Although for the first copy of Glory Road I bought, it had a bonus for Gillan fans only record included. It was pretty average though. My current copy does not have that pretty average bonus album. Anyway, I'm fairly certain those were the first records I bought, and at least some combination of 10 out of the 13 is correct. Now, I could, of course, have called this my first 13 albums, couldn't I? Oh well. Right, back to the records. And I always used to enjoy telling people what my first ever record was, as they were all obviously lying about theirs being something uber cool, like, Never Mind the Bollocks or something by The Clash, to impress the girls, when in reality it was 100% the Wurzel's greatest hits. Now, I never used to worry about attracting girls or appearing cool. I mean, just look at the state of me in 1978. And quite obviously, I still don't have those insecurities. Fire? No. Anyway, what I'm going to have to be right now for a change is sensible and take something of a break from this channel at least. And if you don't know, then I suffer with an incurable blood/bone marrow cancer called multiple myeloma, and my latest blood tests has revealed that it's progressing quickly and rather nastily, and I need some bone scans and likely radiotherapy treatment in the near future. Fear not though, like you're fearing, as I do have another channel, for now at least anyway, and a long-running weekly blog, both called During the Meanwhile, and I'll put links to both in the description below this video. So if you want to see how I'm doing, then pop along to either or both of those, if you like. Now, you'll either follow my recovery and eventual return to the VC, or if you're morbidly fascinated by the darker side, watch me chronicle my demise and my likely descent into the underworld, or Port Talbot. Whichever is worse. Anyway, whatever. Just be nice to each other, okay? Ta-ra.